Welcome back to the last installment of things that Simon hates to see in emails to him, and today's installment looks at the misuse or the abandonment of punctuation in emails. Now, some people see emails as a representation of a letter, so they see the structure of an email as being quite formal. Some people see emails as being rather an informal way of communicating, and that's important because if you see an email as being formal, your attitude and your approach towards punctuation will also be formal. If you see that an email as an informal means of communication, then your attitude towards punctuation rather relaxes, and it could be the case that you include no punctuation whatsoever to masses of inappropriate punctuation. For example, hyphens all over the place and no commas, or masses of exclamation marks, or even smiley faces instead of full stops. Things like that. Please remember, emails are a form of communication where the end result is that the reader has to understand what you intended. If you either misuse punctuation or forget about it completely, then it's not going to help the reader understand what you want. If you're ever tempted to use text speak in your emails, then I've got a short answer or a short response for you. Don't. Don't even try. No. The last thing I'll say about emails is something that's very much open to interpretation. Some people like it, some people don't like it, and I would ask you to think about this very carefully, whether it's appropriate in the circumstance in which you wish to use it. And that is using the subject line to communicate the message of the email. Now, lots of things are said about subject lines, that the subject lines have got to be detailed, they've got to tell the reader pretty much what's going on in the email without having to open up the email. So bearing that in mind, what some people do is that they actually use the subject line to communicate the message of the email, particularly if the message is quite short, almost like a text message. Now, a long time ago, well, maybe not a long time ago, maybe half a year ago, I was dead against this idea, but now I can see it being used more and more, and even I do this when the context is appropriate. So this is something for you to think about. It's a great way of communicating. The person doesn't have to open up the email, they'll see what the message is. Is it appropriate in all circumstances? I'll leave you to be the judge about that. Some people do a halfway house. In other words, they write the message in the subject line and then in the body of the text they say kind regards, Simon. So is that acceptable? Once again, I'll leave you to be the judge of that. Okay, so this week we've had to look at a number of things which I personally find irritating and annoying when I'm reading an email, and many other people presumably will as well. Some people won't. Some people are a little bit more relaxed than I am perhaps when it comes to emails. But one thing that we can't get away from is that because of the uncertain nature of emails, people can interpret what you write in the way you did not intend it to be interpreted. Some people might get offended by your choice of language. For example, the use of causative have or causative get. So think very carefully when you're drafting an email, reread it, come back to it, make sure you include in a logical way exactly what it is that you want to say, and if you want someone to do something. Refer back to my video clip on Monday in which I put forward the best way to build an effective email. But one thing you should never ever do, and I'll leave you this as a final note, is write an email when you're angry and send it straight away. You should have a built-in mechanism which says, if you're going to send an angry email, always give yourself an hour before you send that email, because nothing ever good comes of an angry worded email.